Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Let's Draw. This is Fane Zhu speaking, and this is our third episode in the series. And if you haven't guessed it from our intro movie, this is Chrono Cross, which has happened to be one of my favorite games on the PlayStation. Actually, probably one of my favorite games of all time. Now, there's two games in this series made by Squaresoft back in the days. One was called Chrono Trigger, which came out on the Nintendo, I believe, or the Super NES. I can't remember which one it came out, but it's quite old. And then this is a PlayStation 1 game called Chrono Cross, right? The other one's called Chrono Trigger. The two of them share similar names, but I think the hardcore fans maybe they'll know what are they even sequels. I wasn't too sure. I didn't get into the first game that much, even though I played it and I finished it. But it's because it's been so long. I only remembered little snippets of it of the game. I remember getting lost and you go into another world and there's like a princess or something like that. I kind of remember some of it, but Chrono Cross is a game that really stuck with me because I think this game I played when I was already in the industry, so I was kind of working on games already. So it resonated with me a lot more than Chrono Trigger had. So I decided to choose it for another reason because in the past two titles, I think we did Oblivion and also what we call it, Fallout. These games are kind of dark. What I loved about Chrono Cross was its bright color palette, and that's something I really want to capture for this episode. Is to let's work with a less brownish palette, all these kind of dark blues and generally in the blue, dark brown tones, and go for this bright color palette using pretty saturated colors, because remember the original game, or Chrono Cross that is, took place on this tropical island, and something that just hit me during that time was how beautiful the game looked, that it really took you away to another place. I remember booting this game up and you see that introduction and you're running around the beach and there's kind of these very everything's very beach inspired, coral reefs and all these things. I just love the palette. It was so rich, and you can just see in the background here on my screen on the upper left corner are screenshots I grabbed from Chrono Cross as a color palette reference. And most of the work I do these days are all in the dark tones already, so it was quite refreshing for me to take on a kind of this bright saturated color. All right, so let's jump in here. You guys notice that this for today's video we're actually on fast forward, is because I actually started this series not thinking I was going to record it. I mean, I was recording to test kind of how to set this stuff up for you guys. Like, okay, should we even do Chrono Cross? And I just started recording, just kind of kept going. So I thought, hey, maybe I just keep it for now. But I think it still works. It's a little bit sped up, but it's not that much faster than what I normally paint. It's about 50% sped up here. So. All right, so for this one, I really want to get into environments. That's something I want to hit instead of focusing on characters. Maybe that could be for a different episode. But for this one, I want to capture that bright, the kind of environments that really, really takes you into another world. That no matter what you're having in your real life, when you boot up this game, you just feel like, man, I'm in a different planet here. This is a place I want to spend the next few hours enjoying and exploring. So I started with just thumbnails, and I actually generated quite a bit of them because I was kind of in the zone for this. I haven't done something in color, I mean at least something so bright and colorful in a long time, so it was quite fun to just start exploring. And I started with just color gradients, take some photographs that has some nice colors and kind of just bash the colors together and see, can I generate something that's similar. And I'm relying heavily on the reference photos from the original game, the color palette that the original game has established. You can see this one's kind of borrowing the colors from the coral reef set that you see on the kind of the reference photo on the lower bottom left corner there. All these kind of bright reds and blues, just a beautiful palette to use. And this is something I'm not too familiar with. I'm always working with these darker blue, kind of brownish tones to get something on a bright sunny day. It was a little tricky, so I actually struggled quite a bit with this first image, and then I think by the second or third you're starting to get into the mood of it, and the palettes are starting to gel better together, as you guys will see. So right now, just totally exploring. Some of the influences I'm trying to do right now is all coral based. Now, of course, this is Let's Draw, then maybe this is a sequel or something, but I do like the tropical setting. When I first started, I wasn't sure, like, should we still kind of keep it on a tropical island, or do we pitch this game to be in a different location? But I thought, man, the location they have for Chrono Cross is just beautiful, that maybe we go back and revisit a different part of the set. So I still want to maintain that fantasy feel that this game was able to capture. Later you'll see the other sets as well. I try to get a little bit more fantastical in terms of scale and things that maybe are not so typical of fantasy stuff. But this stuff is very prominent in JRPG games, or the Japanese RPGs. They have some pretty really different environments than say compared to a European type of RPGs where you typically get castles and elven forests and stuff like that. JRPGs tend to expand upon that fantasy and almost bring in a element of sci-fi. I think Chrono Cross has that as well, where you're definitely cross time periods there. Guys are dressing almost like they're from the future, but yet they're still using swords. And I think that's the mix that what captures me in particular to these type of games is that you kind of get to enjoy fantasy and sci-fi all within the same setting. And great character design, by the way. I think this is the game where I remember you could get like so many different characters. There's like something like 10, 11 endings or something like that to the game. So I thoroughly enjoyed this one. This was one of those games I totally came home after work and just spent like 3-4 hours a day grinding and killing things and building up the levels. Right, so here you can see me throwing in various textures. Again, trying to enrich the color palette to avoid the brown blue stuff and just throwing in bright greens, bright reds. Just try things out. Actually, part of the inspiration from this is that we just had a guest speaker here at the school come in named Daniel Doshu. For those who don't know, you can look him up. Daniel Doshu, last name is spelled D-O-C-I-U. I think I got it right. Yeah, Doshu. Yep, he's a creative art director over at ArenaNet for the game called Guild Wars and Guild Wars 2. And he came over here and spent a day speaking to our students, and I was totally inspired by his approach to painting, the kind of almost a spontaneous feel to really get your feelings in there first before you start working on details. Even though I stress that a lot in my own videos, sometimes you fall victim to your own, I guess, technique in which you start following a certain patterns, like, okay, here's how I do the work, so step 1, step 2, step 3, and you start generating the same thing. So for this one, I try to start a little bit different than my previous videos and just almost free form, almost like playing jazz music in a way, where you are in control of the notes, you're in control of the composition. But in terms of what is about to come out from this piece, I really had no clue when I started these processes. It was kind of like, I want coral, I want colors, I want vistas, I want beautiful, fantastic kind of a feeling. But what that is, no idea. Let's just start playing jazz and get that stuff out. And I definitely recommend some of you guys to try that as well, especially if you've been following perhaps the same method of working. Sometimes just open up Photoshop and just go for it, spontaneously just generate stuff. You could clean up the perspective, the details, the so-called fundamentals maybe later. Even this case, I didn't even strike a horizon line when I started these. I mean, it was literally like, where's the camera? Who knows? What lens are we using? Who cares? Let's just capture the look and feel first. Especially for a fun title like this, I almost want to put myself back to when I was playing this game and that feeling you had, that inner happiness you had when you're in the game world. I want to be in that mood when working on this. So as you can see here, I started with the ocean image just for that purpose. Like let's go blue, let's go bright. Let's not start with this dark black thing. And what I did here is use a little bit of blur, motion blur, just to get rid of the photo, because I don't really care what the photo is doing. The only thing I wanted from the palette, from the photo, was the color palette. So here I'm actually physically starting with coral, just to see what it gives me. This one I had a kind of a idea of a coral forest, which was in the original games as well. You can see the greenish palette kind of in the middle left of the reference photo. So let's do a HD rest up version of that particular space. So here I'm just looking for bright greens, things that give me a lot of noise that I could use to generate coral with. So yeah, it was quite fun. This actually, I had a lot of fun doing this. You'll see. I kept on making thumbnails until I think I got to about 6 of them. Normally I stop about 3. It's because I was just really enjoying the project. And when you're in that kind of zone, the last thing you want to do is stop yourself from working. It's like, come on, time is still okay. My schedule's still okay. Let's just keep pushing through, because creativity is important to capture when you're in that mood. I remember when I used to freelance and you get into the zone and it is like 8 o'clock at night, you haven't had dinner, and then your wife or girlfriend saying like, come on, let's go eat. You're like, dude, I can't. You don't understand. I'm in a creative process here. And for me, that's so important not to disturb when you're in the zone, because some of your best work sometimes comes out when your energy, when everything kind of is aligned correctly. And this project definitely had a little bit of that, because you get the opposite. You get some projects where you're like, one painting in, you're like, dude, I have no creative energy for this thing. Nothing's coming to my mind. And those are a little bit trickier to deal with sometimes, especially if you're working on a freelance project in which deadlines are looming and you still have to be creative. But for these kind of things, they come along and they're very, very enjoyable from a design point of view, where you're just having so much fun. You're not stressed out about the the technique or anything else, and just spontaneously making art. So hopefully you guys could find that as well. Maybe do some less draws, find some games that bring you happiness. I think this game, maybe Zelda on the SNES, the Link to the Past, I think. There's a couple of games, Final Fantasy 3, maybe 7. These are games in which even just by looking at a screenshot, it brings a like it's almost like an adrenaline rush of nostalgia, where your inner child comes right back. I'm sure some of you guys get the same thing. I mean, that's not what nostalgia is, but for me it really brings in that sense. I want to draw, I want to paint right now because I want to be back in that world. And when I was younger, I couldn't generate paintings or draw, but now that I have a little bit of that skill, I could create my own versions, and that's a very nice high to have when creating. So yeah, and when you guys are trying this out, don't worry if your stuff is, if you're learning this kind of stuff, don't worry about it. You gotta have fun. That is so important in this business, is that you're doing this for yourself ultimately. No matter what clients you're working with or whatever, you gotta have fun doing this, and you gotta pick projects that you are thoroughly enjoying. Don't do it for the sake of it's a job. Do it because it's something you want to do. And this design cinema, in terms of these 6 thumbnails, took a lot longer than I planned. Usually for this, I was planning maybe a 4-hour block to get it done. I think it ended up being a 8-hour session run. Just totally geeking out and totally getting into the game. So, all right, I think I should probably move on to some technical things here. So again, these are all done without much layers. It's just one. I used the lasso tool quite a bit to separate out the various forms, because I'm still following some basic formulas. Like I said earlier, we're creating jazz music, spontaneously generating designs, but we still must follow some basic rules, right? It's not necessarily hardcore fundamental rules, but there are some basic rules of composition, of balance, and those things I'm trying to keep in mind as I generate these various environments. So zooming out is a awesome feature in digital. A long time ago, we actually have to walk away from the screen or walk away from your canvas to see things as a whole. That's when you step back about 3 feet. In digital, all I gotta do is zoom out. Now, actually, as I got to more refinement of these paintings, I actually stood out from my chair and stood back in the back of my office and still doing a walk away check. It's just old habit. You kind of stepping away and just go behind your desk and take a look at your painting, because you're checking for overall composition, overall color palette, overall mood. That sometimes you're working one-to-one a screen, you're too close, you don't get to see the bigger picture. So zooming out or walking away, they both serve the same purpose. So this painting, at this point, I'm starting to really like this one. I think the color palette is coming together sort of what I imagined in my head. Again, refer to that left image there with the green, with the little girl, the little blonde girl with the dialogue. That's the kind of environment I'm trying to capture here. And this one's starting to get that nice colorful vibe I wanted, that bright, saturated color palette. So again, pretty tricky. I haven't painted something like this. Most of the stuff I do is all these like military, in the future, and Earth is all destroyed, and paramilitary and rebels are fighting it out. So everything is all like smoking and on fire, and bullet holes everywhere, and craters, and everything's brown smoke. These are kind of typical jobs I get in my studio. So I really get to do like happy world, like happy green grass. I love to work on like a Super Mario game or something like that, in which we're dealing with primary colors or something. So this was a huge break in terms of what I usually do, and challenging at the same time, because you can't rely on a formula that I've been using for the past year or so on the other projects. You have to kind of reset your brain and see things without the dark blues and the grayed out browns and stuff like that. So maybe you're in the opposite position. Maybe you guys are working on something very bright. Maybe you could try something dark. So the point of all this is pick a subject you like. Don't even think that someone's going to look at it. Do it for yourself. Because oftentimes students get nervous because they know that they'll be seen, this piece they're doing will be seen in front of others, and they tend to freeze up. And we always tell them it's a mental game. Half of what we do here is a mental challenge. If you could get past that point where I don't care who looks at this, I don't give a crap who's going to look at it or who's going to critique it. I'm doing it because I want to do it, and I'm doing this painting or drawing because I want to have fun doing it. If you're in that kind of state of mind, you really start to get into what this industry is all about in terms of the enjoyment part of it. If you're always like, oh man, I want to put this on Facebook, so like, I get a bunch of guys to click like on it, or I want to get recognized as a concept artist because I'm doing this. That kind of motive, sure, I mean, it's important because you have to pay your bills and get a job doing this, but that adds an extra layer of stress that you really don't need in the creative process. You want to be just in the zone, like, I'm now Surge, right, the character from this game, or now you're Kid, and this is you. You are the eyes of this character, and you're standing in this world right now. What do you see around you? Create that. Who cares if you're the only eyeball that sees this world at this point? That's the only one that matters at this point. If you create something nice, sure, you can show it online or show it to your friends and get them to like it as well if it's good. But at this point, none of that matters. It's about making this piece work for you. So I know I'm getting a little philosophy going here, but I think because we do have a lot of students watching these things, I like to give out some advices that I myself ran into when I was younger, creating things, especially when you get onto a bigger project, like you get onto a AAA game or something, and the clients are telling you, oh, the stuff you're doing will be seen by the entire production team plus the CEO and whatever else is involved this Friday. If you let that get into your head, you're like, oh man, I gotta make this so good, so I gotta impress the whole team. There's like 50 people that's gonna be watching this in the auditorium. Oh man, I gotta make this so good. The more you do that, the more you stiffen up. Your arms don't even move anymore. Like your elbows are locked up. Your brain is completely frozen over. But then you start doing, okay, I'm just gonna do a sketch first. This is gonna be my test, right? This is my test. This is not the final. I'm just gonna do a test, and you find that your test comes out awesome. The reason for that is because you're not stressed, right? And what you got to do is you got to train your mind to think that everything you do is a test. Nothing is final. Everything's a throwaway. Everything is an experiment. And you're experimenting for yourself. And what happens is by doing that, you actually end up with, at least in most cases, in my case, you end up with much better results than if you were doing this for like, this is it. This is like, this is going in front of some major director or something like that. You just stiffen up. So, hopefully that helps some of you guys who are maybe could relate to that. So I find that especially challenging when you're doing fresh designs, when you're doing something straight up blue sky kind of content, that your mind has to be at a total relaxed state. The more you get tensed up, the more design tend to stiffen up as well, or the less creativity you get. So, all right, let's go back to this piece. So this is a vista shot. The other two are kind of close-up shots, medium level zoom for the camera. So now I want to do a vista, in which is like you're in a valley, and I'm still being inspired by coral reefs as a main design motif. So here I'm using those kind of those corals that kind of stick out from the rocks, except of course we're in open land here, and you're in kind of this very lush valley with a huge waterfall in the distance. Imagine like a Grand Canyon, but very, very lush underneath. And you have these plates of coral, like I don't know, they're plants or whatever they are, grown on the side of it. And you have this castle, this kind of fantastic castle, way in the distance above the horizon. So, and on a beautiful blue sky, clear day. So really hard. This is really challenging for me. Again, this is something I don't do often in my freelance work. So even in most demos I do, I don't generally do daytime happy blue sky stuff. So it was a challenge to fight against, oh man, let's just make everything go in dark shadows, or let's darken half the screen up so we could put monsters in it. Instead, the original Chrono Cross, it was so fantasy, it was so bright that I had to really fight myself to not do those typical tricks that you use. So this one also injecting colors. I ended up actually cannibalizing other pieces of paintings. You'll probably see it later, in which I take pieces of the other paintings that has nice colors and kind of just bashing that into these paintings just to get the colors going. So here I am generating some of the clouds. I have a cloud brush. You guys probably see me use it over and over in my paintings. I'm quite lazy. I haven't got online and found more. I literally have just like 5 cloud brush that I use for every painting I do. It's because it's not that relevant, because these paintings are more about design. So what if the same cloud shows up 3 times in the same painting, or in every painting has the same cloud? It doesn't really change your design. It's more of it's there to serve a purpose of, that's a cloud. That's it. Is it the same cloud? It doesn't really matter. So the selling point in this case, it's the design of the canyon, the color palette, the shapes that are in it. So now I'm on my 3rd one. I think I'm about to start a 4th one coming up pretty soon. So let's see here. Yep, here's the 4th one. As you can see, I'm on a road here. This is all recorded in a single session here as well, in which I just started jamming. It's like 3. I normally would have just stopped right here, but I was like, man, I want to do a little more. Let's see how many I could do before the time kind of clocks in, and I ended up pushing for 6. But for the final, I think I fleshed out 4. Yeah, I flashed about 4 of these for the final. The other 2 are the ones I abandoned. And that's very typical of the workflow as well. You start a bunch of thumbnails and you choose the best one to refine. So so this one I want to do, what was I thinking for this one? I think I want to do another vista shot, except the vista I just did right now is a down low horizon shot in which you're in the valley. So for this one, I want to do an upper horizon line. You can see the white lines I drew in there. So to put our camera slightly above the earth, so we're looking down. So not the earth, but whatever the environment we're in here. So just got contrasted with the previous environment. So this way, if this was actually for clients, they get to have their eye constantly change as they go through your products, so they don't get bored of the same thing over and over. Not only are you changing design, you're also changing the camera placement, just to play around with the eyes. Let's talk about the game for a bit. Since these are less draws about the video game, let's talk about Chrono Cross. So yeah, I played this when PlayStation 1. I picked this up. Absolutely gorgeous designs. The music for this game is incredible. You got a snippet of it in the beginning, which I hope I don't get in trouble from Square to take it down. If it does, we're going to have to re-upload another version with that cut out. So I just only put about 15 seconds in, so hopefully that's not a big deal. But anyways, beautiful music, beautiful designs, great character work, and just the overall vibe. It's one of a kind. It reminds me of Final Fantasy 3, I guess, in the States. Same kind of vibe in which within 10 seconds, you're in another world. You are completely lost in it. No matter what the heck you're doing during the day, you forget about it, and now you're in the world of Surge and Kid and everybody else that's in this beautiful planet. So there's rumors that Square is making a sequel, but I think that was almost like 10 years ago that they registered the name Chrono Break, I believe, when they were thinking about doing a sequel. But ever since Squaresoft became Squaresoft Enix, I think it's kind of on the back burner here. So, but you never know. Maybe sometimes the world works in crazy, weird timing that sometimes you do these kind of less draws, and all of a sudden Squaresoft announces, maybe they're doing a sequel. So, human brain sometimes coincidences links up. So it's quite interesting. So I'd love to have a sequel on this on the PlayStation 4 or something like that. I think it would be an amazing title, and I'm sure it will do quite well on the market. I think most of us who grew up with these games will definitely buy it. So Squaresoft, if you're listening, please bring back Chrono Trigger or whatever Chrono something you guys are naming it to. You guys have a lot of fan base on this game, so it'll do super well. Even if you just took the either Chrono Trigger or Chrono Cross and just remake it in HD, I think it'll do relatively well. So Chrono Trigger, let's talk about that a little bit. I actually just bought it recently because I played it so long ago. My memory of it is almost gone at this point. I remember there's a frog dude at a bridge, and there's a knight or something. I think I could get it to about 2 hours of memory, and I forget the rest. So I actually bought it recently for my iPad, but I haven't had time to play it yet. It's still sitting there, just installed, but I haven't ran through it. But that game is actually great. It had these really cutesy stuff in it. I remember the girl loses her cat or something, and some guy had like a lunch that you could steal. And in the beginning, when you're playing the game, you had no idea that what you do has consequences, right? So like you steal the guy's lunch or something, where you find the little girl's cat, and later you're put on trial. And depending on what you did, like very beginning, literally the first 20 minutes of the game, actually determine some outcomes for you later because of the trial. They're like, oh, did you ever steal something from somebody? And like, oops, I stole lunch from some dude. So that was brilliant, considering how old that game was, and how, by today's standard, how rudimentary the system was running on. The amount of thought they put into game design was just absolutely incredible. So, and that, I think that's what made that game so special, that the world felt alive, because it no longer was a binary, pushing a pixel across the screen and push pixels against other pixels. It became a living thing, and the characters were just so well crafted in terms of dialogue and the things they interact with. So, all right, so I'm still on a roll here on number 5 now, I think, on the environment. At this point, I think I was starting to run out of steam a little bit. Each one takes about, in real time, I think about 25 to 30 minutes, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So right now you're already looking at about 2 hours in. So 2 hours straight without a break since I'm recording. You're starting to your energy start running out. In fact, I forgot which one this was already in terms of the theme of it. But still trying to stick with bright colors. So I'm going through my island photos or just forest photos, anything with bright colors, and trying to capture that mood. Oh, I know what this one was. I wanted to do a fantasy castle. The last two, actually, because I ran out of steam on these two, these are actually the two I never got to refine for the final. Simply at this point, your brain starts to just, hey, give me a break. You know what I'm saying? I've been thinking for the last 2 hours. I can't take this anymore. So I'm checking out. You know, so at this point, you're really fighting yourself to get some better designs out. So that's why I encourage you guys when you're doing designs, get all your rough stuff out first. Get that the thinking part of your brain out in the first few hours, because it does tire out quickly, the thinking part of your brain. The mechanical side could last for hours. I mean, I could go for 8-10 hours doing mechanical rendering stuff and not really get tired. I mean, you get physically tired, but you're mentally pretty okay just listening to music. But in terms of thinking, that for me usually lasts only about 2-3 hours before you start to burn out and need to take a coffee break or go out for a walk or something like that. So at this point, I'm definitely starting to hit that, and I haven't had coffee as well. So it's the design starting to become like, what the heck am I doing here? You know, it's starting to actually, you can see very clearly I'm going back to my old formulas here. I'm going back to kind of this destroyed world, towers in the sky, and everything's kind of gloomy, and that's why I ended up scratching these two thumbnails. So, but still quite fun just to push it through. Oh, by the way, if you guys stick to the end of this video, I hope I got time. Our community website that I helped design is actually in beta stage, and I welcome all of you guys to go check it out. I will do a quick video on it at the end of this video and attach it on so you guys can see a quick snippet of what it could do. But it's in beta, and the domain name is drawcrowd.com. So the team that made this website is awesome. These guys are really cool. So my role in it was the UI design and some of the flow through. So, but there's a other team behind it that built a beautiful website, and you guys will check it out. It's all free. It's meant to be very easy to use. Hopefully, you know, that's my part of the job, to make the UI extremely accessible to especially busy artists, you know, where you just want to literally upload your file within seconds, and our website does that. Our portal, you just click one button, drop your file, you're done. You don't have to OK anything, you don't have to approve anything. You are uploading your file within literally seconds. You could get a portfolio up and running. So it's a site that also encourages a lot of sharing between each other, discovering of other artists from all over the world. We have some really cool features. You know, you can see which country someone's from. They have little flags next to their name. It's all there to encourage the growth of this industry, the growth of it's something I always wanted to do when I was starting to do my tutorials, was that there's so many talented people in this world, but it's hard to put them together in an easily accessible place, because you do have Facebook and Pinterest and things like that, but these websites aren't designed specifically, especially for up-and-coming artists. You know, if you're elite professional, people find you anyways, but if you're somewhere, you know, up-and-coming, or you just got out of school and you have some pretty good work, but you want high-end clients to find you, I always find that sometimes it's tricky. So hopefully this website that the team has built could help in that process, and I'll really appreciate it if you guys go there and just check it out. If you're an artist, register. It takes about 20 seconds or something like that, and you're up and running. So again, at the end of this video, I will put together a little add-on video to kind of run through the some of the fun features of the site. So all right, let's go back to Chrono Trigger. Enough, or Chrono Cross. Sorry, enough of website stuff. So here's the another fantasy one, and this one I was really struggling. You can see it's starting to look like the other pieces. The color palettes are starting to become similar. It's all due to the fact that the energy level at this point was running out for me. So, and also I didn't have music on. It was a little too late, you know, because I didn't want to like go away from the recording and turn on some other music. So I was working in silence as well for 2 hours without listening to anything, and your brains just start to go kind of cuckoo nuts. You know, it's got nothing else to think about except for like color palette bright, fantasy, no dark, and it takes enough of that, and you start to slow down. So, but this one does, you know, maybe I'll go back later another time to try to flush this one out. So I don't know. The other four actually already capture the same feeling. So if this is a client job, there's no need to finish this one off, because the one that I just did before this one, the kind of the Upper Vista one, serves the same purpose. So there's no need to give the clients a double design of the similar thing. There's no need. So especially in the beginning phases of a design. So here, look, I'm getting really tired now. So I'm going back to like post-apocalyptic colors, and I don't even know why I did this one. It's literally like, what the heck am I doing, man? You know, because I do know that Chrono Cross has a whole, I think Chrono Trigger as well. There's like two worlds, right? Two simultaneous universes or something like that, in which the characters are kind of crisscrossing between the two. I don't know what you call it, time zones or alternate realities, but they're kind of connected somehow to each other, but they're not, I think. So this is my kind of the attempt to do an underworld, but I went way too far. It became like this Lord of the Rings, Mount Doom, crazy thing. So I ended up scratching this as well. So this is what I mean by default, somewhat easier things to do, which is just spiky landscape with high contrast. And it's also nighttime, very dark. Everything's like your sunlight is very high contrast in terms of brightness. These paintings are definitely a little bit easier to do than the daytime happy stuff. So, but this is what happens when you get tired. You start going default. So you can see here, this looks nothing like Chrono Cross. It looks more like a Doom kind of environment. But yeah, since I started it, I go even within I think 5 minutes, I knew this piece ain't gonna make the cut. But since I started it, I just want to rough it in. Maybe I could use it for something else. I don't know. It's got a kind of a generic volcano, Mustafar from Star Wars, that type of thing. So maybe we could use it for something else. Not sure. But this one definitely was in the gotta scratch it, for not for this project. So as a designer, that's sometimes one of the hardest thing to do, is to critique your own designs and the willingness to kill your own designs, without someone else telling you, hey man, this is not working. You have to be very critical of your own work and basically, not have any kind of ego or any kind of narcissism of like, oh, just because I did it, this has to be in. You have to use judgment and think more from a client's point of view of maybe this doesn't fit what we're doing. So actually I should talk less about client stuff with these Let's Draws. These should be about video games, right? So let's make this more fun. Let's not get into too much into work stuff. So if you guys are younger, maybe, or even if you're older, who cares? If you want to draw, let's go pick another RPG. I think for next week I'll do something similar as well, because I really enjoyed this episode, the making of it, because the fact that the game I picked was just brought so much nostalgia, a lot more than say Fallout or the Oblivion, Skyrim type games, which are pretty new, and they're too new to have nostalgia. So I think I'll maybe pick something else that's on the Nintendo or something. But a lot of you guys have suggested things like Zelda and some of these major IPs. I'm also trying to stay away from games that already has a remake. The reason why I stood away from Zelda was, even though the game itself is absolutely amazing, is because Zelda is still an ongoing IP. Versus Chrono Cross isn't. So here's what I did for two of these paintings, in which I rested up. So each of these took about an hour and a half to do. So you can see they're a lot more refined than when I just left you on this rough state. So I'm actually going to show you how I rest these guys up with this piece here. So that way you're not seeing like, oh man, Finn, you're like hiding secrets from us. But I'm not. All this is just time. That's all. There's no add detail button in Photoshop. The only thing you gotta do is just sit back and just draw. So you can see this piece here is the exact thumbnail. I left it about 3 hours ago from when I first touched it, and you'll see me bring this up to a fairly okay detail level just by painting. There isn't anything else I add in, so maybe some textures, I'm not sure. Actually for this one I didn't even throw any textures, it was just straight up painting. So hopefully you guys will see that the adding of details isn't a special process. It's exactly the same thing as doing the thumbnails. It's just gotta be more patient with it and just work. So that idea behind this one is a little bit of kind of like a fantastical, kind of sci-fi-ish environment, because Chrono Cross, like most JRPGs, have that element in them. Especially look at the way these guys dress. They're almost dressing more like high-tech than the fantasy. And some of their buildings, especially Squaresoft Final Fantasy series, they're completely sci-fi. So I want to bring a little bit of that into here without really getting into like a Halo type of thing. But maybe the arrangement and the tower system is definitely not a standardized castle. But the materials that are being built here, I'm thinking of kind of wooden boards that are shaped like these curved roofs, and they're curving these things along the top of a cliff, a valley, and you're seeing this nice vista below you. Just try to capture again that very fantasy feel. The center white line you see kind of off to the right center, there's a white line. That's actually a leftover perspective line from the initial sketch that I did. So if you actually rewind back, you'll see me do a quick horizon line with some vertical lines. But that line, I actually ended up using it as a focal point for a beam of light, because in the original trailer of Chrono Cross, there's a very quick shot of something firing a big bright laser beam into the sky. So I thought, hey, that's kind of related, so maybe I'll just work that directly into the painting. So those are the spontaneous stuff you end up with when you approach the painting with a little bit less planning, and just approach it more from a jazz music perspective. So of just creating something interesting and then work with it. So you got to do that once in a while. If you only follow formula all the time, you end up making your job kind of boring. And you also tend to, at least in my case, you tend to generate the same designs over and over again. So, but as a designer, most of our designs definitely follow a certain language. We all have our own influences, our own way of thinking about design solutions. So most designers have a certain flavor to their designs, but what I'm talking about here is like, take that flavor and just change it up again. If you're always making the same steak with salt and pepper, maybe this one it's made with a little bit of something else, whatever. So you're still overall keeping your own cooking style, but just changing ingredients from time to time. And then if you have a lot of time, you can always train yourself to cook a whole new dish, which the more, I guess, busy you get, the less time you have for that. So always make time to try to do that once in a while. So you can see here, even though it's fast forward, you can see the detail in the lower right corner is starting to come together, and there's nothing, there's no textures, there's no photo bashing or some kind of add detail filter. It's just paint. That's all. Take a brush that give you some okay resolution, some okay edge control, and put on some music and jam away. This stuff will take time. You gotta have patience for it. Each of these took me about an hour and a half to 2 hours to do. All right, adding details, trying to put some chimneys on there so it doesn't get so sci-fi'd out that a spaceship will appear here. But this one definitely could go sci-fi just by putting a spaceship flying by. It's starting to look like more like a Halo type world. But that's what makes JRPGs kind of interesting. Is they're mixed of high technology with like swords, and still gold coins. Even though they're flying around with these crazy airships. So. All right, blue sky, big puffy clouds. These are all things I remember from the original game. It just makes you happy, happy Hawaii, tropical island, that type of vibe. So you're always in a good mood for this kind of thing. So same cloud. You can see my clouds they're like repeating. They're all clones of each other. So again, it doesn't really matter that much. If I had time, you can always go in and kind of clone them out and paint on top of it. So here's the light beam that I decided to extend out and make it a some kind of fantasy element, some kind of focal point. So maybe down there is definitely a place that the player will have to travel to explore. So excuse me for a second as I take a sip of drink. Now, I hope you guys are enjoying these Let's Draws. I'm definitely enjoying making it for you guys. So, continuous suggestions because Chrono Cross is one of those things that came up from you guys. I saw that. I was like, dude, that's perfect. Chrono Cross. Haven't thought about that since it's been so long. I played this. So, and continue making suggestions, and I'll make the next episode to whatever is popular. Oh, another thing I should mention. I'll be at GDC next week, which is from March 17th, I believe, to March 19th or something like that. It's next week in San Francisco. I'm not going to be at the booth the whole time, but I'll definitely be wandering the floors, and on Fridays I'll most likely be there as well. So just in case some of you guys are going to be in town for GDC, come by, say hi, and say hello to each other. And I also I love meeting guys who watch this video and just to hear your feedback, and really appreciate it that you guys spend your time as well. This is a double-sided process here, is that I enjoy making the videos, and I love it when you guys send me messages in Facebook, or some of you guys track me down on Twitter and these kind of things and send me messages. It's great. That's why I do these for you guys. It's especially when someone's life get changed by these videos. I mean, that is the best reward you could possibly have for doing these videos. When someone mails you like, oh, I used to work in a liquor store or something, and then now I started doing art, and 2 years ago I got hired, and now I'm working in a game studio, all because of the videos and stuff. That is such a rewarding process. And so if you guys have stories like that, feel free to share with me. Find me on Facebook or my blog or whatever. Sometimes I don't have time to reply, but trust me, I do read pretty much all the messages that come in, and I'm very, very appreciative of the nice things that you guys say to me. So, and that's what keeps me going. So of course I always get the hate stuff as well. As like, dude, this stuff sucks, but that keeps you going too. It's like, okay, let's try to make it better then, So instead of like, oh man, I don't want to do this anymore. So it's actually quite fun when you get guys who are bashes this stuff, and it just makes you want to work harder. So, but most, I think that's only like 0.1% of the kind of stuff you get. Most of it is all very positive response, especially from the younger crowd who are using these videos as an inspirational point to perhaps pursue a different career. And that's something that I never had the chance when I was younger. There just wasn't access to these kind of videos or anything. Actually, you couldn't find out anything about the industry back in the mid 90s. Everything was hidden from me. So if I had this kind of resource, man, I'll probably never leave the home. I'll be just learning and watching all sorts of stuff on the internet. So anyways, that's why let's keep these things going, make suggestions, and also go to the website. From there, I can actually post videos coming up pretty soon, I think, so you guys could directly interact with me there as well. So as well as YouTube. All right, so this one's kind of cleaned up version. You can see here, I fast forward a little bit, you're seeing the more refined version, and then I'll bring in the last piece to work on, which is the first one I started. I actually didn't really like the way this came out. I abandoned it a few times. This is the first one I started with, as you guys remember the thumbnails. I started work on it, I just couldn't get into it. It was so challenging. The color just wasn't working for me, but I ended up just throw it in there anyways. It still looks okay because I'm trying to capture that coral colors that you see in some of the screenshots, especially in the early opening levels of Chrono Cross. You see here, there we go, the bottom corner right there is the kind of color palette I'm trying to use, which is kind of purple-y, very coral reef kind of color palette. But it was a hard color to control. You get these purple, orange, reds. You still want to balance your lighting. It was quite tricky. So I kind of abandoned it a bunch of times. I started, I worked on it for 20 minutes. Oh man, this one sucks. Let's work on another one and then go back, work on it a little bit. Maybe it's not so bad. And then like, oh no, this sucks. But I ended up just kind of cleaning it up. It's okay. It's definitely not my favorite of these four. This is probably the least one of all four of these. But it's still, I think, showable as a design. Perhaps it could spark a conversation. But in terms of a technical finish, I wasn't too happy with this piece. It's I don't know, something about it doesn't. I think it's too high contrast now that I'm looking at it in this software right now. Yeah, I think it's too high contrast. Too many areas of bright and too many areas of dark. So your eye doesn't know where to go. And I tried to put that aqua ocean in the background right there. I don't think that's working that well either. It's just too many things for your eye to focus on. The other ones is always like a single focal point. This one, I think there's at least 1, 2, 3, 4. I count about 4 major hotspots for your eye. The red on the left, the aqua blue in the middle, the big sphere thing right center, but pretty much center of the screen, and then the purple kind of bright area right next to that. So these 4 areas are all 4 contrasting points that unfortunately I'm only spotting now. I should have fixed it when I was working on it. But that's part of the process of self-critiquing and be harsh on your own work. So obviously don't get yourself all down, like, oh, everything I do sucks. But you do need to have a critical eye for your own work and the willingness to sacrifice your own pieces. Even if you spend many hours working on it, if it's not something that you think to make a client happy, you might actually not show it. But it's a subjective call. It's subjective. Very for those who are working, you probably know what I'm talking about. But if you're not in the industry, don't matter at all. You just do whatever you want. So this is more of a do you show things to clients that you know it's bad? So in most cases, if it's bad, you probably should either fix it or don't show it. So all right. So continue working here. I actually go in real time for a few minutes. After this, I think about 5 minutes here. I'll go in real time to show you guys the finished 4 paintings, what they look like refined. So. Let's see if there's any other technical things up here. And it looks like we got some more new viewers, so I'll repeat some of the questions that gets asked a lot from the previous videos. I think one of them was like, what brush do you use? I answered this a million times. It doesn't really matter. I use default brush from Photoshop, the kind of default chalk brush. So find a brush that works well for you. That's it. That's the best advice I could give you. There is no magical brush. Some brush definitely feels good, but that's from artist to artist. So some brush I tried that supposedly are very good. When I use it, I don't know how to use it. It just doesn't feel right. And then there's some weird brush out there that nobody uses, then that you pick it up, you're like, oh, this is awesome. So yeah, brush really has nothing to do with it. It's your creativity and your technical skills that's going to make this work. In terms of, I think we also asked, are these done on a Cintiq? No, they're done on the very old Wacom tablet, Wacom 3 actually. So I haven't switched to 4 or 5. I've been using the same tablet for the past, man, this has got to be 7, 8 years old tablet. But it works fine for me. So it's responsive, it's fast, nothing wrong with it. So no need to change. Even though at our school we have access to a lot of new Wacoms, we have 5s everywhere and 4s everywhere. But for me, it's more like if it ain't broken, it's working fine. There's no need to install something new and possibly have more bugs show up. So I'm still using a Wacom Intuos 3. So let's see, darken up the corners here, checking the values in black and white, just make sure everything's okay. This is a weird piece. Doesn't make any sense. It's like kind of coral balls with juggly rocks on a beachy type of place. I don't know. I don't even know where the red is coming from. So remember, this was the first one in which I gotta work with bright colors, right? So I think over here I'm gonna start going to the what do you call it? The real-time stuff in a second here to show you guys. Right here it comes a fade. Alright, so here's the no longer fast forwarding. This is showing you guys what it could look like in large scale. I'll have these available on my blog, so that's feinzudesign.blogspot.com, I believe. Actually, go to drawcrowd.com, it'll be there as well. So that's draw crowd, right? So draw crowd, one word, two words in one, no space, drawcrowd.com, and I'll have these there as well. So I threw in a little kit. I just found out on the internet. Somebody had like these alpha cut of these Chrono Cross characters. I just threw it in there just for scale to show you what this game could possibly look like if you're playing it from a third-person perspective. So I really like that one. That's probably my favorite piece of the series. So here's this one, the Grand Canyon with coral reef motifs. Photoshop was giving me some trouble here, so because with Camtasia running, there's a slight delay, so I press keys too fast. But anyway, so yeah, you can see the castle. I added a couple of balloons in the back just to give it a little bit of atmosphere, make the place feel a little bit more alive. So again, yeah, you could grab these from my blog or from DrawCrowd. My account is /Fein. So if you go to drawcrowd.com, just put a /FENG, my name, and you'll get to my page. And these hopefully will be there by the time this video is on YouTube. So you could grab I'll try to put up a 1920 or even 2000 pixel wide image for you guys. So if you guys want a higher res, just let me know. I'll welcome to share with you guys. These are done at 5000 pixels. So if you guys want to like say a 2500 wide pixel thing, I'll put it somewhere for you guys. No problem at all. So there's no worries of me like sharing high res for you guys. It's more of a server thing, that if you guys want it, I'll put it somewhere and you guys download it. So I'll put a link on there if there's enough requests for the high res. So, but the 2000 pixel wide should be enough for your studying needs, right? So here's this piece here with the vista, made the clouds a little bit more fantasy. And then the last piece is the one that I struggle with, the coral reef one. So, all right, so this episode is coming to an end. So stay tuned. If I got the time, there should be a video following this one, a short introduction to drawcrowd.com that follows this one. And I hope you guys go check it out. Let us know. It's still in beta, so there's bugs. You can also find us on Facebook. There's a drawcrowd account on Facebook in which you can report bugs and those kind of things. So it's still early. It's only been running quote unquote live for only 1 week. So, but there's a lot of users on there already, so hopefully you guys go check it out. And because of my team that worked on this, I think they'll be very, very happy that you guys will check it out. So all right guys, so hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I'll try to make another one in a very short time. I definitely enjoyed this one. It was a lot of fun, I think, for me making these. And yeah, so I will see you guys around. Stay tuned for the website video. All right guys, thanks a lot, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye bye. Hey everybody, this is Fein again, and this is going to be the quick introduction to our new community website called drawcrowd.com. So I hope you guys go check it out and maybe even register, again, all free, and it's there to share your work and discover others. So this is the front wall. Let me run through the site real quick for you guys and some of the cool features we have. So some of the cooler images, for example, we could upload here so everyone could check these out. And down here our infinity wall. So this will load for quite a while. There's a few thousand images on this front wall already, and each one belongs to individual artists. So you could click it. For example, let's just click this image right here. Here's the bigger version of it, and you can make comments very similar to how you will make it on other social sites. Very easy to input text. We also have some cool features, like you could quickly see where these guys are from, what country they're from. Like this guy looks like a German flag. We've got Singapore here, right? So it's quite cool. You can also scroll through just any of these images. Like let's look at this. What should we look at? Here's a horse thingy. Click open, and if you want to visit this artist's his own site, just click on their name and you go to his own page. These images are the most recently uploaded. As you can see, the site is extremely fast right now, depending on where you are. But if you're in, say, Europe or what should we call it, North America right now, it's extremely fast. The other ones, the cloud servers are still building up the data, but it should be relatively quick. So this person here is in Korea, as you can see. So I click on their name, and so this is the main wall for this person here, and you could choose to follow them. So I'll just follow this person right now. Boom, follow this user, and now you'll get updates from them, because if you go back to your front wall here, you'll see that your followings have some new stuff here. So if I click that, these are all the different people right now I'm following, and you can see they're uploading. So it's kind of like Facebook, where you just get updates, except it's updates with images only, and that's sort of what makes this site quite fun and very easy to use. So you can see these are all various artists that I'm following right now. And here's another cool feature. You can see here someone has taken a quote underneath their image. In fact, you'll see on the main discovery as well. Let's go here. So let me scroll down. See here, there's a quote right there. Let's see, there's one right over here. That's the same one from earlier. You can see there's another quote. So this is a cool feature that we built in. Basically, what it is that, let me go to my own wall. Go to my wall here. So this is my wall. You can see I have a bunch of little quotes that you could choose any image. Like I click this one. Long as someone made a comment on here, you can see this guy said these moves. This one said nice. You could choose to feature these. So if I click feature, boom. I have no idea why my audio cut out, so I'm back. Anyways, talk about features. So you can see here that this nice, I could kill it, or I could put this guy's feature here, and now that will become a little quote. And you could also visit that person who made it. And now if I refresh the page, this will likely show up as a little quote. There it is, right? These moods. So it kind of is cool. It builds a nice social aspect to the site, I think, and makes people make comments a little bit more, I think, have value in terms of them. And you can also say funny stuff or whatever you like to do. Now let me show you something that's really cool that makes our site really easy to use, which is the basically one button upload. So here it is, the little angle here. You can either reach your upload from your own page. For example, there's upload new images, or just click on the arrow. Right, and you're brought to this page, and all you gotta do, let's take the images I just done for this episode. Here's 4 of them. Take these, drag it over. That's it, and you can see it's already one. This one took 1, 2, 3, 4, about 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3, right? 1, 2. That's it, right? That's it. It's done. You don't have to click anything. If you want to put description, you could, but you don't have to. You're done. You're done. It's already on your page. So if I go back to my home page right now, and you can see all 4 images are already here. So, and you can click on it, it's really loaded. So this is something that the team has spent quite a bit of time making sure that this process becomes so easy to use that if you're a busy professional or or even a student, you don't need to go through a lot of UI to get your images uploaded and seen by the general public. So anyways, it's still in beta, so you guys could check this out. Oh, by the way, get notifications. You can see here, this guy commented on my image here. Someone liked my image. Just like Facebook, you get updates on what people are doing. So this is nice social aspect. You can also, of course, click on an image and share it to your Facebook if you want. You can search for names. So like I'm over here, search for Fane. There I am. You can follow users. But anyways, go there, check it out. Give us some feedback if you want, because we're still working on it. Until that beta goes away, we're still adding features. So hopefully you guys enjoy it, and I will see you guys soon. All right, thanks guys. Bye.